Hi everyone, welcome back to another tutorial by me, Spring, the fiber enthusiast. This is my own pattern. I am not sponsored by any yarn companies at the time of the making of this video. So let's get started with what you will need. This is a cabled messy bun on an elastic band beanie. So what will you need? You will need a 4-weight yarn or Aran. I chose this Walmart brand Mainstay Sparkle acrylic yarn. It had a total of 251.53 yards or 230 meters. You can see I have used a little less than half. Okay, so you'll need the yarn. Any 4-weight yarn will work. You'll need matching circular needles that are required by your yarn ball label. You will also need a cable that is long enough to do magic loop, or you can use 5 DPNs, once again, that match the yarn you are using, the requirements of the factory for that yarn. You will also need, for this hat, if you follow along with me, it is a young adult or child size hat. You will need 4 stitch markers. I chose a different color for my starting, and then 3 for the other sections. Each time you increase the size of this hat, you would do it in the amount of 10 stitches. So you would just add 10 more stitches, your cast on, to make this one size bigger. And that would be another section of cable, and you would need another stitch marker. I also choose to use a separate stitch marker when I start my decreasing, because it's only a few rounds, and that way I don't have to continue to move my beginning stitch marker. I just add it. You'll see in the video, I just add it on the side. You'll also want to have some type of measuring tape. That would be really good to have, just to kind of get an idea as to what 2 inches is on the brim, and also to measure your hat in full. You will need a darning needle to sew in your ends, and a pair of scissors to cut your yarn. And the last and final thing that you will need is a cable hook, roughly about the same size as your knitting needles that you are using. So now that you have rummaged up all of your supplies, let's get started. For today's tutorial, I am going to be using Walmart's Mainstay Sparkle acrylic yarn. We are going to make a hat. I would like for you to cast on in your favorite way of casting on. I would like for you to cast on 81 stitches. And the reason for 81 stitches is because of how I join in the round. Making sure that all of your stitches are correctly facing the same direction, we are going to connect our stitches at the end of both needles together in order to connect in the round. The first thing I'm going to do is I am going to slip the first stitch off of the left needle onto the right. Then I'm going to reach over and catch that last stitch that I made, the 81st stitch. And now I am going to pass it over the other stitch that I transferred. And now I will take the stitch that originally came from that left needle and place it back onto the left needle. And we are now connected in the round. Sorry about that. We are now connected in the round. We will continue to knit a 1x1 ribbing all the way around for 2 inches. I will meet back up with you when I have reached my 2 inches. Just a quick reminder, a 1x1 ribbing is to knit 1, purl 1. So knit 1, purl 1, knit 1, purl 1, knit 1, purl 1. And you continue that all the way around. Just knit 1, purl 1, knit 1, purl 1 until you reach the end, and your first stitch will be a knit. You move on, and at this point you can add a stitch marker if you'd like, just to remind yourself as to where your beginning and end is. So knit 1, purl 1, knit 1, purl 1, and just continue doing that for your ribbing all the way around for 2 inches. Okay, so now that you have 2 inches of 1x1 ribbing for your brim, we are going to start our pattern. And for this pattern, the first 5 rounds will all be the same. This will be your repeat. I have done my first section. It will be done in 20 stitches, so it'll be broke down into 4 sections. You will see what I'm talking about in just a second. Placing a stitch marker at the end of my 20th stitch, so that way I know that in between these 2 stitch markers is where my pattern repeat is. This is the following pattern for your repeat all the way around, 5 rounds total. So we are going to start with purl 2, 1 and 2, knit 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, purl 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, knit 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and purl 2, 1 and 2. And now that should be a total of 20 stitches from your stitch marker. 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, and 20. You will now place a stitch marker and we will continue on. Repeat the exact same order. So we start purl 2, knit 6, purl 4, knit 6, and purl 2. Once again, you should have 20 stitches at the end. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, and 20. Place another stitch marker. And repeat again. When I finish this last repeat, I will meet up with you and we will talk about what to do next. Okay, I finished my last repeat for this round. And just to give you an idea as to what you're looking at, there are 4 sections with 20 stitches in between each of the stitch markers. This is going to form our sections of cables for the remainder of the hat. There will be 2 cables in each section all the way around. So there will be 8 cables around the hat. On either side of those cables, you will have purl stitches. Those were the purls that you made. You will have 2 purl stitches before and 2 purl stitches after each of the cables. In between the 2 cables in the section, you will have 4 purl stitches. That is because 2 of those go before the next cable and 2 of them come after the cable before. So let's get started. Our repeat, that was round 1. We are going to continue on for 4 more rounds in the same pattern. I will start with you and then let you do your homework and meet up with you when I have finished 5 rounds. To start the round, we will purl 2, 1, and 2, knit 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now you do not want your knitted stitches real tight because we will be cabling them. And if they're too tight, it's going to be hard to get your cable to cross over. Purl 4, 1, 2, 3, and 4, knit 6, and purl 2. Transferring your stitch markers when you come to them. Starting the next section, you are going to repeat what you just did. Purl 2, knit 6, Purl 4, knit 6, and purl 2. That is your repeat. Continue around until you have come to the end of your 5 rounds. I will meet back up with you and we will start our cable round. Okay, so I have made my 5 rounds of repeats. Now we are going to do our cable round. So for that, you need your cable hook that is roughly about the same size as the needles you are using. Purl the first 2 stitches. Now we are going to slip 3 stitches onto our cable hook and hang the cable hook to the front, facing you. Knit the next 3 stitches. Place the 3 that you slipped onto the cable hook back onto your left needle. And knit those 3. Purl the next 4. Now you are going to slip the next 3 stitches with your right needle in front, your working yarn in front. Slip the next 3 stitches onto your cable hook and leave it to the back of the work or the inside of the hat. Now move your working yarn back into working position to knit and knit your next 3 stitches. Again, move your working yarn to the front, your right needle to the front. And replace the 3 stitches from your cable hook back onto your left needle. Take your working yarn and move it back to the back of your work and in knitting position and knit those 3 stitches. Then purl the last 2. Okay, we will do that again. Transfer your markers as you come to them. Purl the first 2 stitches. Slip the next 3 stitches onto your cable hook. Knit the next 3. Place the 3 stitches from your cable hook back onto your right needle, your left needle, I am sorry. and knit those 3 stitches. Purl the next 4. With your working yarn and right needle to the front, slip the next 3 stitches onto your cable hook. And with your cable hook to the inside of your work or behind, knit the next 3 stitches. Move your working yarn and right needle back to the front and place those 3 stitches you reserved on your cable hook back to your left needle. Place your working yarn back into knitting position behind your work and knit those 3 stitches. Purl the last 2 and continue with that pattern for the next 2 sections. I will meet you at the end. Okay, so I just finished up with my cable round. So just to go over it one more time, we did a purl 2, then we cabled 6 with the first 3 on the cable hook to the front. Then we purled 4 stitches. Then we cabled to the reverse 6 stitches. So the first 3 stitches went to the back. And you can see the difference, where this first 3 stitches is over the top. And this first 3 stitches goes behind the second 3. So see how they're going towards each other? That's because we cabled to the front on the first cable and to the back on the second cable. And then we finished it up with 2 purl stitches. Okay? So we have 5 rounds that are purl 2, knit 6, purl 4, knit 6, purl 2, repeat. 1 cable round, which is purl 2, cable 6 front, purl 4, cable 6 back, and purl 2. Now we are going to repeat that 5 rounds and the cable round 4 more times until we have made 5 crossovers just like these. Each of these rounds should be about 1 inch. So you should be close to 5 to 6 the time you get to the end of the 5th repeat. After you have finished the 5th cable round, I will meet back up with you to finish our last 5 rounds. Okay, so I have just finished up my 5th cable round. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And if we measure this out, we're pretty close. Let's see here. We are at 4.5 inches. So we're almost at the 5-inch mark. The next 5 rounds are going to be decreasing rounds. You can either switch to a circular with a longer cable, so that way you can work in magic loop, or you can switch over to double pointed needles. You will need 5 double pointed needles if you do that, because we are going to work in sections 1, 2, 3, 4, plus 1 to work with. I will most likely switch over to my magic loop style after the next round. So let's start with the first round of decreasing. I'm going to go ahead and slip my stitch marker over, and then we will start in pattern, purl the first 2, knit the next 6, purl 1, then purl 2 together. And here's how you purl 2 together. Just like a standard purl 1, you're going to have your yarn in front of your work. Take your right needle, insert it into the next 2 stitches, and purl them together. And slide them off. Purl 1, and slide it off. Knit the next 6, and purl the last 2. Transferring your stitch marker as you come to it. Okay, again, purl 2, knit 6, purl 1, and purl 2 together. And purl 1 more. Knit 6, purl the last 2 of that section, and continue on. I will meet you at the end. You will purl 2, knit 6, purl 1, purl 2 together, purl 1, knit 6, purl 2, transferring your stitch markers as you come to them. Okay, for the next round, I stopped. On this last round, I stopped one purl stitch before my stitch marker. The reason I did that is because now our decreases are going to happen on the 2 stitches that are next to your stitch markers. So we have to do a little bit of fidgeting and moving stitch markers around. You can actually drop them if you are confident. So I'm just going to slide that stitch over, drop my stitch marker, slide the stitch back, replace the stitch marker. Now I'm going to purl those next 2 stitches together, just like that, and purl 1. Knit 6, purl 3, knit 6, purl 1. Now once again, we're going to move this stitch marker, so we are going to move that next stitch over, remove the stitch marker, place that stitch back onto your right needle or your left needle from your right needle, and then purl the next 2 stitches together. And purl 1. Now knit 6. As I said earlier, you can replace your stitch markers as you feel comfortable. If you feel comfortable without them, you can take them off. I'm only leaving my beginning stitch marker. Purl 3. Knit 6. Purl 1. Again, we're going to slide the next stitch from the left needle to the right needle, remove that stitch marker, and slide that stitch back onto our left needle. Purl the next 2 stitches together, purl 1 more, knit 6, purl 3, knit 6, last one, we're going to purl that first stitch, slip the next stitch over to our right needle, remove our stitch marker, and place that stitch back onto our left needle. Purl 2 stitches together, purl 1, knit 6, purl 3, knit 6, and we are at our last purl stitch. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get my work transferred over to my magic loop, and I will return. Okay, I have transferred over to my magic loop method, and I have 72 stitches. If you've been following along with me, you should as well. Dividing your stitches equally on the magic loop, 36 on each side, if you are using the magic loop method. If you are not and you are using DPNs, you want to divide them into 4 equal parts. We are going to start with our next decrease round. Before I go any further, I'd like to mention that for myself, I just placed a stitch marker right here to indicate that that's the beginning of every round, and I remove the one that I was originally using so I don't have to worry about moving it around as I go. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're starting off with a purl 2 together. Now when you slide that purl 2 together off of your needle, you want to make sure you cinch it down good and tight so you don't have a big gap. Now we are going to knit 6, purl 1, purl 2 together, knit 6, and that is your repeat. Purl 1, purl 2 together, knit 6, and repeat until you have come to the end of this round. Okay, I have come down to my last stitch. It is a purl stitch. And what I want to do is transfer that by sliding through and putting it on the other side to start the next round. So I will be starting the next round with a purl 2 together. Flip my work over and get set up to start working in the round on the magic loop. Okay. So on this round, we are going to, in our purl sections, every purl section, we are going to purl 2 together and then knit 6. So starting with the first one, again, remember when you purl this first 2 together and slide it off, you want to make sure and cinch it down so you don't have a bunch of slack in the middle. Now we need to knit 6. purl the next 2 together. And knit 6. And that is your repeat for this round. Purl 2 together and knit 6. Continue this pattern in the round until you have reached the end. I will meet back up with you at the end. When you've come to the first half of your round, your last stitch will be a purl stitch. Once again, you need to transfer that simply by sliding your needle and cable through. Now it's on the opposite side. And you will continue on just like you have been doing. And we are going to purl these first 2 stitches together. That's why we moved it over, so that way the 2 stitches were on the same side. Okay, and then knit 6 and continue to the end in pattern. Okay, I have reached the end of that round. This very next round is super simple. We are going to knit every stitch all the way around to the end. So you're going to knit the purl stitches and knit the knit stitches. Go ahead and do that, and I will meet up with you when I'm done. Okay, I have knitted 1 full round. Now we are going to transfer onto our hairband. So to do this, we are going to, it's a little tedious. Let's knit that first stitch. Then you want to place your rubber band on your knitting needle, just like that, your right hand knitting needle. Okay, now you're going to knit the next stitch. Knit the next stitch. Slip your rubber band from front to back. So it's now underneath your knitting needle. And knit 1 and 2. Now take the rubber band and transfer it back to the front of your needle, knitting 1 and 2. Again, move your rubber band to the back, knit 1, 2, rubber band to the front again, knit 1 and 2, you have to keep everything kind of squished together for this to work. Move your rubber band to the back again and knit 1 and 2, slip your rubber band back to the front and knit 1 and 2. Once again, you move it to the back, just like that, and knit 2 more. Take the rubber band and move it to the front, and knit 2 more. Again to the back with the rubber band, Now remember, we are stretching this out as we are going, this rubber band, so things get a little tight. Knit 2 more. The rubber band back to the front. Knit 2 more. Being cautious not to lose your stitches. Again, stretch that rubber band out and move it to the back. 2 more. Stretch your rubber band and move it back to the front. Knit these last 3 stitches. Hang on to your work good and tight so it doesn't slide off your needle when you reverse your work to work on the next needle. Move it down a little bit so that way you don't lose it. Okay, now we can slide that back needle out so we can work with it. All right. Now we're going to reach over with our rubber band and go over the top of our needle and knit the next stitch. And slide the rubber band and the stitch off. Now we will knit 2. Pick that rubber band back up from the inside there, slip it back over your left needle, knit the next stitch, and slide the rubber band and the stitch off. Knit 2, pick that rubber band up. I'm hanging onto it with my finger, with a couple of fingers actually, into the center of the hat, and picking it up and sliding it over the top of my left needle and knitting the next stitch. Then I just slide that stitch and the rubber band back off and knit the next 2. Again, pick that rubber band up, slide it up over the top of your left needle, and knit the next stitch. Knit the next 2. Place your rubber band over the top of your left needle, knit the next stitch, and slide the rubber band and your stitch off, knit the next 2, slide that rubber band back up on and over the left needle, knit the next stitch and slide them off, knit 2 stitches, again, slide your rubber band up over your left needle. When you're knitting around that rubber band. Just like that. And then you slide it off. Knit 2. Again, pick your rubber band up and over that left needle, knit around it, and slide it off. Knit 2 more. Place that rubber band back over your left needle. Knit the next stitch. Slide it and the rubber band off. Knit the next two. And one more time, we're going to knit over this rubber band. Here we go. All right, we are now on to our last and final round. We will be casting off of our needles, binding off, getting off of our needles. When we do this, you need to make sure that you are doing it very loose, because you're going to want to make sure you have enough room for this rubber band to stretch out. So let's knit that first stitch. Cinch it down. Knit the next stitch. And cast the back stitch over the front stitch, and now one. Again, knit the next stitch, slide it off, and bind them two together. Knit the next stitch, and bind them two together. And we will keep doing this very loosely all the way around until we are completely off the needles. I will meet up with you at the end. So I've finished one side, and I want to show you how loosely I've cast off. So there's plenty of room to stretch out for it to go around your hair. Okay, I'm going to continue on and finish this last side, and we will come back together and finish it up. Okay, I've come down to my last stitch. I have bound them together, and now I am going to cut from my yarn ball and sew in my end, or should I say ends, because I now have a starting tail and an ending tail. Can take this stitch marker off. And you can see from the top the rubber band and how much stretch there is. And when it's around your hair, you can somewhat see the rubber band, but your hair will probably cover it more than likely. Now this hat will fit young, adult, and most youth. So let's sew in that end. If you want to increase this hat, you would add an extra 10 stitches, creating a whole nother section of cable with 2 more purls on each side of it. So just continue to sew in your ends, and you will have a messy bun hat knitted with cables and on an elastic band for around your bun. I will take final pictures at the end of this, sewing in the ends, and add them to the end of this video. If you have found this tutorial helpful and enjoyed it, please give me a thumbs up and let me know down in the comments section below. Also, if you make this hat, or anything else for that matter, come on over and join my Facebook group. It's down in the description box, along with my email, Instagram, and so on and so forth, different ways to find me. Tag me in it on Instagram and let me see it. I would love to see your work. I bet this would be beautiful in black. Oh, I can imagine that would be gorgeous in black. But anyway, that is it for this tutorial. Be blessed and be a blessing.